Lynn.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm very curious to hear from our very interesting guest we have today. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about her?
Sure. Her name is Lynn McKenzie. She's an animal communication and psychic development expert.
Okay.
She does podcasts and webinars, and she's written a book recently called Bark, Neigh, Meow. Should I do them for you?
That's cute.
It's
We'll do that later.
okay. It's all about how to connect with our animal spirit guides, and also how important our animals are in our lives and how we can connect with them and how they help us to make our lives better, enhance our lives. So we're looking forward to having Lynn with us.
So let's get Lynn on the line.
Okay. Ruff.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Lynn.
And Amy.
Welcome to our
Hi, Lynn.
show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you.
This is something I know absolutely nothing about. So
You do know about animals and pets.
that I know about.
And
yes.
you do know about psychic abilities and having that connection. So you do know more than you think.
Put it
Right,
together.
Lynn?
Yep, and you'll know a lot more when we're done.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Would you mind just telling our listeners about how you got into all this?
Yes, it was never something I planned. You know, when I was younger and thinking about what I wanted to do with my career, I didn't even know this field existed. And you know, but I was always I was born loving animals. I have a story in my book about, you know, when I was about 2 or 3 years old, how I went on and on about this animal that had been killed on the road for weeks. And my parents were praying I would forget about it because I wouldn't stop talking. And I was always very interested in everything supernatural, spiritual, metaphysical, anything from the invisible world always fascinated me, you know. And I started sort of, when I was a teenager, my mom was going to psychics, so I would go to psychics too. And I was introduced to a lot of this stuff at a young age, but then I went off and had a career, a couple different careers actually. And I ended up in real estate for 18 years. And real estate was, I was good at it. And it was, you know, I'd spent a lot of time building that career, but I didn't feel like it was what my soul was here to do, like as far as my mission goes. So eventually I started taking courses, and I was trying to get out of real estate and get into a career that would be more fulfilling. And I initially went through for a spiritual psychotherapist. And in the course of doing that, really realized I was it involved like psychometry, everything about chakras, meditation, past lives, you know, pretty much everything you can imagine metaphysically. And somehow I just ended up, you know, finding my way to animal healing, I call myself an animal intuitive, not an animal communicator, but you know, basically dealing with animals on the non-physical realm and helping people and their animals. And it just was, you know, sort of I think it was part of my life's mission, and it was meant to be, but it wasn't anything that was really planned from the beginning.
In your book, also, you discuss the fact that how the animals, all animals, are here for a purpose, just like you are, and well, we all are. So you would not only acknowledge the fact that we have to go through steps in order to find our purpose, our real passion, what we're supposed to be doing, but animals also have that a part that they have their purpose.
Yeah, they absolutely play a role with us in our lives. And, you know, oftentimes our animal companions that choose to partner with us in our lives tend to come to us for specific reasons. And, you know, it can be like human relationships, a reason, a season, or a lifetime kind of thing. I mean, but they really do have important roles to play in our lives.
Lynn, can you tell us about your training, how you learned how to do this?
Yeah, so it wasn't in any kind of linear way, really. I mean, I had started taking different trainings even when I was 21, my whole family took the Silva method. So that was one training, which is about using your mind. I don't know if you've heard of that training, but it was very popular back then. That was like 1981. So it's a long time ago. But, and I started taking every kind of training I could about metaphysics and healing and spirituality, and I took it. Aromatherapy, dowsing, psychometry, just pretty much, I can't even think of every healing modality I could find. Then I realized, hey, I could use all this other stuff that I learned to do with people. I could do that with animals. Yeah. And it was in the getting of my golden retriever in 1993. His name was Jigs. And I write about him in my book. There's a whole chapter on him.
I read that.
Yeah. So it was in getting him, I believe he was the one who sort of urged me in that direction, because he came into my life with some issues that couldn't easily be handled with allopathic medicine. So, I ended up realizing that, hey, I don't even use allopathic medicine for myself. Why am I trying to use it for my animal? But when people would call me for readings, I would do readings for their animals for so many different reasons: behavioral, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, all of the different scenarios. So people might be having a cat that's urinating inappropriately, or their dog might be getting ready to cross over, and I would help them through the death and dying process. Sometimes what I became very well known for was connecting with animals that had already passed, helping people with the death and dying process, and then connecting with animals that have passed. So basically mediumship for the souls of the animals. And
we know that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Animals do have souls. And when I do readings, they ask me, when I say their dog's name, oh, who's Bentley? They're like, that's my dog. That was my dog as a kid. I am 100% believing in the fact that they do have souls, and they do move on to the other side with their other loved ones until and we can meet them again. So I'm glad that you said that with the soul, because they do have souls.
Yeah, the soul, and the soul, the essence in the soul is what I'm communicating with when they're alive or when they've crossed over. It's not really that much different.
It's not.
But it's just it's harder for some people to wrap their head around the fact that that happens. But animals will come back to us even in this lifetime sometimes. But it's like our souls often traverse together through time and space. And, so that essence doesn't end with the ending of the physical. And animals, when we're tapping into their soul, they have a lot of information from the collective consciousness. So, I mean, they can guide us. My book is broken into 5 sections: animals as partners, teachers, healers, guides, catalysts, and bridges.
Do animals communicate the same way humans do? Do they tell you?
Yeah, like it depends on the animal and the mix of animal and human, because sometimes they communicate just in your language, no matter what language you speak. Even if they live in the United States and someone's trying to speak to them who lives in Italy and only speaks Italian, they can somehow do that. But they speak in words, thoughts, symbols, pictures, images, feelings, tastes, smells, so your 4 clairs are the way, your main 4 clairs are the way you can pick up from animals, but it can come in different ways.
When we do our readings with people, they from the other side, it's the same. Everyone has a different personality here in the 3D and on the other side. Same with animals. The animals that we have, doesn't matter if you've got 5 animals, or they're all different. Even if it's the same exact type of animal, each has a personality, like children, or like any individual, and their soul might be different, and they have different purposes also, so much like people. So when you speak and communicate directly with animals, it's a soul connection. It's something telepathic. When we do clairvoyance, being able to see the symbols, clairaudience, hearing things, we talk about this all the time. It's the only difference, sounds like, it's just through animals, which are our blessings.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like they'll just send me symbols. Sometimes you have to decipher the symbols. So,
Yeah.
so receiving the communication is one thing, but then being able to decipher, like if you were reading somebody, a human, and you know they said, and you got an image from them, you could say, "I'm getting this image. What does that mean to you?" With the dog, you have to do it telepathically, or you have to say, "Show me more," or you have to have that way to interpret. Like I always say to people, interpreting what comes through is a secondary part of all of this. So if you feel like you're getting it, you're wrong. Like sometimes new people don't trust themselves, and I'm, you know, just the way with psychic development, because I teach that too. But if they feel like they're not getting it, sometimes it's just that they haven't quite mastered how to interpret what they got and get the right, you know, and information. So, you know, it is part of it. But yeah, they do it in all different ways. Sometimes you'll just feel exactly what they feel instantaneously. You know, sometimes you'll feel it like physically or emotionally.
So if you were to do like a reading on my dog, who's very bad, by the way, what kind of information would you get from him?
You know, it just depends. Like I was doing a reading on a dog that had like about 5 different ailments and was on a bunch of medications. And she was a Great Dane, and she was like maybe 5 or 6. And that for a Great Dane is old, although it wouldn't be old for like a Yorkie or something. But her person came to me because she was really concerned about how many, you know, things that, and I can't remember what they all were now, but she had, you know, a bunch of things wrong with her. And the first thing the dog kept doing is sending me a red heart, and then it would, like, the red heart would come toward me and then it would break. And I mean, people would go, "Oh, she's got a broken heart or something." That would be the typical thing you would think. Right. But so, you know, and I'm like, I for some reason, I didn't even ask her that because I knew that wasn't it. And I said to her person, "She keeps sending me a red heart." And she went, "Oh," and I went, "What?" And she said, "I collect hearts, you know." And she said, "And one of my best friend who loves my dog to bits just gave me a red one." And I kept getting like a really like low energy from the dog on this. Usually it'll be like a perk up or more light or something when we're on the right track. And this wasn't happening at that moment. And I said, "Hey, is your dog wearing a collar?" And she said, "Yes." And then she went, "Oh my gosh, her rabies vaccination tag is a red heart on her collar." And what she was trying to tell me was that, you know, and I'm not a vet, so I can't recommend it, but I, of course, recommended she goes and talks to a holistic vet about whether, you know, she didn't want any more vaccinations. And she was saying they were causing her a problem. That's how she showed it. All I was there to do was to relay the message and, of course, to tell her to go speak to a veterinarian. Then I talked to another dog who had a really serious problem. And in the first 3 seconds, in such a meek, mild voice, she just said, "It's my duodenum." And I know that some people pronounce it duodenum, but that's how she pronounced it to me. I told her person it was confirmed with an endoscopy. She had stopped eating at 2 years old, and she had a bacteria in the area of her duodenum, which was something that only humans get, not even animals. And she had to go on a diet of kangaroo. But once they found out what it was, I mean, but she was able to tell me within like 1 second that it was her duodenum out of like a couple million body parts that we have. So it's always different.
The cat that passed away, we learned that she was blind when she was 6 years old, which didn't affect her one little bit.
No, it's amazing.
She was able, she's been to, you know, since she was 6 weeks. She knew my house perfectly. You would never have known. But we communicated telepathically. So when we found out she had cancer, I went into my vet already knows. She's like, "Here comes Amy." I would be reading all the people in the vet place, and I'd be taking her constantly. They did the surgery, and I literally asked her telepathically, "If this is your time to go, then I give you that right. But if there is any way that you could stay longer, I would love to have you. You know how I feel about you." And when the nurse came in and said she might not survive the surgery, I said, "That's not really what she said." And then they did the surgery. She survived the surgery. And they said she's only going to make it probably another year if you're lucky. And we did vitamin C infusions. We did what we could. to
Yes.
help. She had a perfectly beautiful life when she got back. If there was the same quality of life,
Yeah.
yet I got 2.5 years extra with
Yeah.
her, and every day was special. So the grieving process, and I tell people this when they lose their pets, and I'm sure you understand that, was the same as losing a person. And only people that love animals or understand that can say, oh, I get that. Because it is the same exact grief process.
I've actually had so many people tell me that it was harder for them to lose their animal companion than it was to lose a human.
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah,
But
I'm told that over and over again. And
I was going to say that.
I think part of it is because they're the one being that really gives us unconditional love and never gives us a hassle. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like they just accept us how we are, no matter what we look like, nothing about everything's perfect with us as far as they're concerned.
My husband never jumps up on me
Yeah.
when I come home.
Or acts that happy. Oh, you're
grunt.
home. Yay, I missed you all
I
day.
get a grunt, yes. So Lynn, something that's always bothered me is animals that live up north, like cows, horses, that are outside in the snow and the cold. Do they have horrible lives?
No, it's interesting because horses that live in the cold are usually much healthier than horses that don't. And most horses, I won't say all, but many horses given the choice would rather be outside, and they are very much healthier. I mean, they were meant to live in nature, and they have, now if it was a horse that had been inside and had lived in a heated barn for part of its life because it was a show horse, and then you just kick it outside, that's a whole different story. But a horse that's been allowed to acclimate for the seasons, like once, it's really funny, before winter even ends, they're already starting to shed their coats, getting ready for spring and summer. And then, probably within a month or less, they'll already start, they're in the process of developing their new coats for the next winter. And, if it's a really elderly horse or a horse that's, what we would call a poor keeper, they may not do well, but honestly, they do so much better outside for the most part.
I think that even for cats and dogs and people that have pets at home, one of the questions, I know that I feel like they're supposed to be out in nature. That's their, although they're very complex creatures, and they are probably smarter than us in a lot of ways. And they are also, I always say, closer to the other side. That's why they don't have to live as long. They have already done what they needed to do. So, which helps a little bit in the grieving process, knowing that. But I also always feel a little bit guilty. I'm like, does she really want to run outside? Should I let her go outside? Because
Yeah,
when they're inside, you're taking care of them. We rescue them and we give them love. And when it's pouring rain or it's awful out, I'm happy I have them inside, but I also feel a little bit of that. Am I taking away their freedom?
It's one of the reasons even why some cats and dogs have let me, and horses even have let me know why they are okay with euthanasia when the time comes, because nature takes care of that. The weaker ones don't survive because something else gets the weaker ones. And when we bring them into our scenario, which is an unnatural scenario, for them to live in, just like it's unnatural for us really to be this domesticated in a way, they don't have that. So it's kind of our duty to be their guardians, look after them as best we can when they're a weaker being. And
all of these animals, do they tell you I was reincarnated, or I came purposely for this, or I hate the people I'm with? Do they actually tell you things like that?
I don't usually have any say they hate the people they're with. Some of them might, like, because it's a soul agreement, right? So they chose to come with that person. Sometimes they're there to teach them lessons, like they're there to teach all of us lessons. And whether we heed those lessons or not is up to us, and up to how much we want to grow and, take responsibility and, just transform, because that's what they're here to help us do. some people learn it and some people don't. I could say something to some people over and over again, and it's just like, talking to a wall. I can say something small to other people from their animals, and they'll be like right on it, like right that minute, like they're like all ears and want to learn. So, but they are here as more wisdom teachers for us, and important beings. So whether we step up to the plate, just as in anything else when it comes to our personal transformation and spiritual growth and evolution, it's our choice, right? And some people kind of turn a blind eye and just get on with their busyness, and other people are like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing, wondrous partnership that I'm learning so much from. And that's how it is.
I tell people all the time, watch your pet or animals, or watch children, because they are the most authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I feel like they see spirit all the time, and there's little things that they do. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you as well, because I tell people that because I see it. And I hear them tell me that sometimes, that when you see them going crazy or spinning around or barking at the wall, they're probably seeing the spirit that some other people aren't seeing, which would be their loved ones, maybe from the other side.
When I do readings for animals, so many times, either on this plane or on the other side, and most of them will, like, very often when I'm doing a reading, they'll let me know about a being that's there with them, and it could be another animal that's crossed over or a human. I was using my psychic abilities for so many things, and the Silva method even helps you work with your psychic abilities, which I took when I was, I believe that as we take trainings, we open up our innate abilities, and everybody could take this, like 10 people could take the same training and come out of it different, because it's like that training opens and triggers your own abilities. And I call them our divine gifts. So we all have them. We can choose to open them or not. Life may just open them for us, randomly, or we can go out and seek to open them. But that's how I feel. But I believe everybody can do this work that I teach. But I believe that it's going to look different for everybody at the end, how it comes forth and manifests. And sometimes it develops without us even trying. Like someone has an aha moment and everything changes. Someone has a near-death experience and everything changes. For me, it really changed when I spent like every waking moment with horses. And I don't know why I was so drawn to do that, but it was like I said, I needed to do that in such a big way. And I think it was how my gifts started to manifest, because they taught me how to be psychic, because horses are psychic.
Then we only have a couple more minutes, but going to ask you a little bit of an uncomfortable question.
Sure.
When I told my husband and my father that we were having you on, they both rolled their eyes and said, oh boy, that's ridiculous. What kind of reaction do you get from people when you tell them what you do?
For the most part, I don't get that reaction, but I understand it absolutely exists. So I would imagine your husband probably feels that way about psychics too.
Right.
So, and, we all, I think there's some people put on this earth whose role might be to help skeptics believe that it's real, but I don't feel that's my role at all. And I don't even try ever. I usually I feel like my biggest gifts are dealing with people who are further along that path. And some may never want to open that path up ever. Many people live and die, and it was just great the way it was, and they didn't need anything more. The ones that I'm here to help are those people who are really interested in spiritual growth, personal development. If you read the book, I don't know if you have read the book, Amy, but I actually say in the book that even if you're in the first chapter, I say, even if you're skeptical, just read a few stories and see if something doesn't change. Because I guarantee you, if you read this book, you will. And this book's been a long time coming, because I'm probably more of an extrovert than an introvert. And to sit down and get this all compiled was like about 20 times the work I could imagine. But I don't think you could read this book and think that that it's not real. Like, how the veterinarians, like when my client was she went to her veterinarian with her dog that stopped eating. Her name was Ocean. And I do mention it very briefly in the book. And the veterinarian saw something off in the blood, but it didn't mean anything exactly and didn't know what to do. So he sent her to the teaching hospital at the university. And those vets were running a series of tests over and over again. And what they ended up doing was, at one point when they weren't getting anywhere, my client said to them, hey, I'm going to go to my animal intuitive. And they all rolled their eyes and went, yeah, kind of like, yeah, good luck with that, whatever. And that dog told me in 1 second, it was her duodenum. Like, how? I don't know. And I wanted to keep dismissing that and asking the dog to talk about more things. And the dog's like, it's the duodenum, lady. Just like, I'm knocking you over the head with the 2x4 and you're not listening. And she went back and had an endoscopy and it was the duodenum. Mm-hmm. And they all just went, wow, what's that girl's name? And does she teach this? And they were skeptical until that. So, the only way you can go from being a skeptic to not being a skeptic is by seeing proof yourself. Right. There's no like quantitative proof that you can do, but it's just like, if you watch John Edwards or any of those mediums, like they come up with some pretty amazing stuff. So that's what I would say, but I don't ever try to even talk to people at that stage of the game because it's not really what my highest role is here in this plane.
Thank you.
I think we feel the same way about that. If there are skeptics,
trying to prove it to my sister and my husband, I really.
The only way you saw somebody live, then but many people don't want to. So what's the point in trying to make someone believe something that they don't want to believe? Absolutely.
Lynn, can you tell our listeners about your books and your social media if they want to get in touch with you?
Yes. So my book is called Bark, Neigh, Meow, Awaken to the Transformative Wisdom of Your Companion Animal to Activate Your Soul's Highest Calling. And it's filled with stories about just that. My website is lynnmckenzie.com. That's LYNNMCKENZIE.com. And you can find my book either on Amazon or on that page. It's just lynnmckenzie.com/books with an S on the end. And I have a free training that people might be interested in, and that's at lynnmckenzie.com/training.
Well, your webinar that I took was wonderful, and any of the parts that I've read of the book was fantastic. And even when you spoke about the animals, you could feel how genuine you are and how much you are connected with them. And that's all you want to do is help other people connect.
Yeah, I want the world to be better for animals and humans and animals together, because some people struggle with their animals because they don't understand them. And then it makes both of their lives not so great. So I want everybody to have great lives and be
fascinating
each other.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting. Again, I said I knew nothing about what you did, and it's fascinating, and I get it. It's very similar to what Amy and I do.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And it's always a pleasure to let more people know about this work.
Yes. Thank you. Wonderful. Have a great day.
Thank you.
So that was a really fun interview, something completely different.
I thought it was awesome. And I thought that it was something that is part of what we do all the time, but not, mostly people don't know how that connection with animals are. Even if we're asked, how did you know about my pet? Or how did you know about my pet when I was a child? And is my pet on the other side with my loved ones? Yes, they are. Can we communicate with them? They are so much like humans in so many ways. I just always wonder are they more simple or more complex? Do they know much more than we do?
I know, I always wonder that. You're right.
And closer to the other side than we are. And they do have different personalities.
They know what they can get away with, just like children.
Yeah, exactly. And they are each personality, like each child that you have will have different things. And they also, what was interesting, what Lynn said was how they each have their own personality. It doesn't matter the species. It doesn't matter if they're all cats. They will each have their own personality and also possess their own purpose, just like humans. They have souls, they have purposes, and that's where she connects.
And that is like a little disturbing to me because when you watch these animal shows and oh God, like it seems like they have horrible lives. They're like brutal fighting and, you know, dogs that get lost and cats that get lost in the woods. I mean,
It's
their emotions are so they're so sensitive. It's sad. I feel badly for
I
all of these poor animals.
I feel like they are just like we would think of people, children, elderly, disabled, anything. If you have that love and you care about
They have
our
so many more human emotions.
yes, it definitely is a part of that, but they also are part of us, which is why I think we have them as pets.
Dogs have better lives than most people have in this world.
I feel like people say to me
Ridiculous.
sometimes, oh, my next life, I want to be Amy's
Yeah,
cats.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the things we talked a little bit, we didn't get into it enough, but about reincarnation
Yeah.
of animals and pets. But I feel like we all think the same way as far as being psychics, mediums, intuitives, clairvoyants. We know that whether it be animal or humans, we do have our soul purposes and we do have a connection, and we do know whether it's a contract before, we know why we come, who we come to, and when it's time. They just get it. As far as animals, they get it a little bit better than we do, because they're not like, that's not fair. Why did I only live 7? Why did I not get this? They don't do that. They
Mhm.
have the purest, simplest, yet most complex already
Yeah.
mind and soul and spirit are already connected. So that's why I always say, watch the animals, watch the children. They know.
Oh,
They're
well,
closer.
if an earthquake is coming or a hurricane, the animals know first, apparently.
Very good point. Animals always know. They watch the birds flying across.
Right.
They even, I was going to bring up dolphins, how they can communicate, and but they're all different. Like she said, all different species, all different. All are parts of life and our life. They just also have that connection with us, which is where Lynn McKenzie not only gets it,
Mhm.
but she also uses that to speak with them and help the people that they are connected with. So it's a win-win for everybody.
I mean, I admit, you know, the skeptic in me came out a little bit before she came on. And I'm like, I don't know, this is a little far-fetched here. Talk, you know, is this like Mr. Ed talking? Or are they going to say, you know, I want more milk bones? I mean, what, you know, what do you say when you
It
talk?
is much, it is more than that. It is.
I understand. It seems it's no more crazy than what you and I do. So
It isn't. And I think they even know when they need to be with each other. They also mourn for each other. They also
Oh, yeah.
know about our sadness. So I've had dreams
Sure.
where my cat that I lost showed me, when even though she was blind, running through the woods and turning around and like perfect eyesight, being like, I'm okay, mom, I'm good, I'm okay. And then that time that when I opened up the window and she left, but she had wings and she was flying, and it was the most beautiful thing. Then looked over at me and I knew she's trying to tell me, I'm
yeah.
free, I'm fine, and it's time for you to take, you know, the grief is, she gets it. I'll always be with you. Maybe it's time for you to adopt another pet, but the more important thing is to know that I'm okay
Right.
on the other side, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Nice.
They're beautiful creatures. So let's talk about Lynn McKenzie again.
Okay.
Just here's her book if you want to find it. It's called Bark, Neigh, Meow. Awaken to the transformative wisdom of your companion animal to activate your soul's highest calling. And I've read parts of it, but I'm going to read the whole thing. So
I thought you were going to bark, neigh, and meow. No.
I'll probably be meowing. Meow. I could do that. Barking. Neighing.
Neigh is a little tough.
That's a little harder. I'm going to have to work on that one. Maybe
Anyway,
next one.
maybe next time. So for our listeners, every one of our shows is going to be different and fun, and hopefully you'll just learn something. So keep listening. Please subscribe. And Amy, do you want to tell our mantra?
I will tell. They should know by now. Aren't you listening? People, come on. Be open. Be expecting, accepting, and trusting. And then go out there and practice, because we all have it. Have a great week.
Go
And we'll
hug
see
your
you
dog
soon.
and your cat tonight.
Yeah, give them kisses. They know.
Bye, Amy.
Bye. I'm going to go give them some treats.
Good idea.
Okay.